Hey all you action figure enthusiasts out there, JC here with another T&I toy review. And for today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at the brand new Transformers Kingdom War for Cybertron Trilogy Leader Class Megatron Beast Wars version figure from Hasbro. Now Megatron, along with all the figures in this Kingdom line, come in packaging that has some awesome looking artwork on it. This one obviously with Megatron himself and in both his Dinosaur Mode, and then it wraps around to the side and you've got his Robot Mode. Now this one, you've got a little bit different backdrop than the other figures that we've looked at in the line. You don't have that volcano with the lava coming down at the arc at the top. You have, I believe that's the Decepticon ship crashed in the mountain there, and then he's more of a jungle type setting. On this side of the packaging, you've just got that same artwork that is featured on all the boxes in the Kingdom line. Up at the top, you've got his Predacon symbol, and then on the back of the packaging, it shows you the figure in both the Robot Mode and his Dinosaur Mode. Alright, so let's take a look at the figure inside. Before I bring the figure in, I want to give a shout out to site sponsor Diorama Prints. They're the ones that have provided this backdrop that you see in the video. They specialize in backdrops for things like toy photography. I will put a link to their website in the video description below, and if you use the code TOYNEWS10, you can get 10% off on your next purchase with them. Now Megatron, like all the figures in this line, come with a trading/sticker card. I've talked about these in my other Kingdom review, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but you can peel these back and it reveals an image underneath. So this one's Dinobot, and you can either keep the sticker on the card or you can, stick it on your wall, whatever. They're hollow type stickers, and there's 4 in the first wave. They are randomly inserted. Again, they're included in all the figures except for the smallest core figures. You also, with Megatron, get an instruction sheet that shows you how to transform him from his Beast Mode to his Robot Mode or vice versa. Now for Megatron himself, you do not get any additional accessories with this figure. But the figure itself definitely has a nice size to it, and you also get some pretty nice sculpting detail. So let's start off taking a look at the head sculpt on this one. Now, I've never owned any previous Beast Wars Megatron figure, so I don't have a lot to compare it by. But overall, I like the detailing. He's got the purple face. Now, his eyes do not stand out very well on the purple. The eyes are kind of a reddish color, but it would have been nice if they'd made that red stand out a little bit more, put some light piping in the head sculpt or what have you. But still, overall, nice detailing. You even have, I like how you have his Predacon symbol there on his head, even though it's very tiny. You've got the silver up here on his forehead and down kind of around his chin and such. And of course that matches up with the teeth there on the front of his chest. So, seems to be pretty accurate to how he appeared in the original Beast Wars cartoon and everything. So again, very nice detailing overall with this head sculpt. Now for the rest of the figure, so here on the chest area again, I like the sculpting detail. As I mentioned before, you've got what looks like supposed to be teeth sticking up here. I believe that technically that would be like his mouth mode, though I don't know, maybe not, because he's got his actual dinosaur mouth on his hand. But that's what it reminds me of. Those look like teeth, and those are individually sculpted pieces with the metallic silver. And then you've got the venting here on his chest, which all looks pretty good. Also, we'll take a closer look at this when we transform him in his Dinosaur Mode, but I like the sculpting detail on the skin. And you've got a nice paint wash with the purple, and then, which this in his Dinosaur Mode is the bottom, gets to be more of that kind of peach type color. So I like that. And he's got the shoulder pads, again, with that same kind of sculpting detail. And then for his right hand, he gets the dinosaur head, which, is part of his Beast Mode, but in Robot Mode, it's his hand. So again, nice sculpting detail with the scales on the skin. He's got the red eyes. The red eyes on the dinosaur head definitely stand out nice. You've got the individual teeth that are sculpted. You even have some nice sculpting detail here, like on the tongue. You can see like the ridges. I don't know how well it shows up. And then kind of turn this here, but on the upper portion of the inside of his mouth, you even have some sculpting detail. And then he's got the hole there where, it's like a cannon. So it looks like he can fire fire lasers out of there, so that's nice. And of course the mouth is articulated, so you can open and close the mouth, and you've got like the nostrils sculpted in there. Now on his left arm, he does have an actual hand. It's inside there, so there's not a lot you can do with it. You can't really pull the hand out. It would be nice if this piece was actually removable. Now this is in his dinosaur mode as part of his tail, but this is one of the least things I like about the figure. It's just this, I don't really like the way this looks. If this part, again, if they could have made this somehow removable so that you could just have the arm if you wanted, I would have liked that much better. Now you can move the tail pieces. This one you can do down and up, and then this one you can do up and right, so you can kind of make it look like a clamp and such. But again, that's probably my least favorite thing about his robot mode. On the back of the figure, he's got a lot of pieces, again part of his dinosaur mode. He is somewhat top heavy because of all these pieces on the back here, so just be wary of that. But you know, overall I think they've worked it well, pretty good with the transformation, you know, making it look like it's an actual backpack piece, even though it's really just parts of his dinosaur mode that they've kind of just had to stick back there. And then finally you've got his legs. So he's got these little cannons here on the side of his legs, which you can kind of pull out. That's really more part of the transformation, but you can pull those out and kind of rotate them a bit. And then you've got some nice sculpting detail here on the legs, with the lighter silver here up here near the thigh, and then you've got this darker gray plastic with the purple. And then for his lower legs, you've got the actual dinosaur feet, so nice sculpting with the toes and everything, and again with the scales. So all that looks pretty good. Even on the back there, I think his legs look really good. Now, Megatron is the biggest transformer in this first wave of Kingdom figures, and if you count to that back piece, he stands about 7 1/4 inches tall. Now, for some comparison, here's the Kingdom Optimus Primal figure. And as I mentioned before, I'm not a Beast Wars expert, so even though to me Optimus Primal does seem kind of small next to Megatron, I'm not sure if that's accurate scaling or not. Here's a comparison of the other leader class figure in this wave, the Optimus Prime G1 Optimus Prime figure, and Megatron is taller. Here's a comparison of his fellow Predacon teammate, Black Arachnia, who is also being released in this first wave of Kingdom figures. And finally, here's a comparison of a recent G1 Megatron figure from Hasbro. Now for articulation on Megatron, you can turn his head all the way around. He really can't look down at all, but he can look up pretty good. That's really more part of his transformation, but you can definitely get him looking up good into the air, which is nice. Now with his arms, he can get his arms out about that much, and then you can rotate, but the back piece there, well, you can still rotate it pretty good. So I would say you got good rotation, but you don't get any kind of forward or back movement, no kind of butterfly joint there at the shoulder. And then he does have a bicep swivel. He's got what I would say like a single hinged elbow, so he can bend his elbow about that much. You really get no, you know, you only have this one hand over on the left arm, but there's no articulation to it. You can't rotate it. I told you about the articulation on the tail. And then same thing with the dinosaur head. You can rotate. I mean, again, you've got like the bicep swivel up high, and then you've got the articulated mouth, but that's really kind of it as far as articulation goes there. You've got a waist swivel here, and then he can bend forward at the waist, and he can bend back really good, but he doesn't have any kind of actual ab crunch or anything. And then for the legs, because of these side cannons, he can only do the splits about that much. And then you can get the leg forward good, and you can do the leg back really good, and you do not get any kind of thigh swivel on this one, so you just get the out movement but no thigh swivel. He can bend his knee about that much, and then with the feet you get rocking motion back and forth, and you get a little bit, actually I wouldn't even call that much, even a little bit, so you basically just get a little bit of up and down movement but no ankle pivot, and he does have 2 peg holes on the bottom of his feet. And he also gets a rotation there at the knee, so he does have knee rotation. Okay, now to transform Megatron from his robot mode to his dinosaur mode, it's probably one of the more complicated transformations of one of the figures with the most complicated transformations in this wave. But it's not super difficult. It's just you've got a lot of pieces, and so I start off with kind of just unfolding these back pieces a bit. And what you're going to do is you can also go and take these pieces on the legs and just flip them downward. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to turn, this is going to become obviously the front, and this is going to be the back. And so next up you can do, you can basically pull this chest piece up and out. And once you do that, you can pull this back piece, and then you can just take the head and flip it in. And again, you want to, you have these pieces that kind of flip down, and eventually those are all going to kind of fit into place. So you just have to kind of keep them out of the way until you're kind of ready with them. Now you can take this back piece and you kind of have to pull it out. Now I just popped this piece off, so you can pop it back on if you do that. But you have to kind of pull this piece out and down. So now you're forming, this is obviously the back of the figure. So, and then where it gets a little complicated is there are some pieces where you have to kind of pull out. So we also want to go and take the legs and break them apart here at the crotch section. And then you kind of want to split these pieces up here and fold them in like that. So, and you got to make sure you get this white piece up in there like that and get it to pop into place, so it essentially looks like that. Okay, so now at this point you can turn, you can kind of rotate the arms, so the tail, this is going to be the tail and this is going to be the head. So keep in mind the orange pieces are the underside of the dinosaur. So and then take this piece and you can rotate it around. And again, these pieces have a tendency to get in the way, which is definitely kind of a pain. But now you can see this is forming the top of the dinosaur, or hopefully you can see. You can rotate these pieces around, so these are going to come down around the legs, the back legs, and then you want to bring these pieces down, and again you got to make sure that all these little pieces are staying stuck out. So, but you're going to wrap this around, again, pieces, you're going to wrap this around, and this is forming the upper body. And then and you got to make sure that you got to flip this around, because you got to make sure that these little clips are pointing upward, because this piece is going to come down and clip into this. So then you rotate the legs down like that. You can go and flip these back pieces closed, and then you can take this part of the tail and flip it closed. And at this point, if everything is lined up correctly, all that's left is just kind of pushing things down. So again, you want to make sure that you take this piece and you've got the little holes here and you plug them into these little pegs. So you got to make sure that they're lined up correctly, and they should just snap into place. And then you can pop these pieces down, and they should go around these circle pieces on the leg like that. And then you just push these in. And now I should have noted this before, but I should note that a lot of this outer skin on this Dinosaur Mode is done with a flexible rubber type material. So it's not like a hard plastic. Same with up here with these neck pieces. But you want to bring this around, and you kind of have to close this in. And if you haven't popped this down, you want to push this down, and that basically should all click into place. So it can be kind of difficult because things have a tendency to kind of push out, and with the soft rubber, it doesn't always fit in perfectly, so you get a lot of kind of broken lines on the figure. But if you work around with it, you should get things pretty smooth. Okay, so here he is in his Dinosaur Mode, and I like some of the detailing on the figure, again, like I mentioned before, with like the scaling and everything, especially on the top side here. I think that all looks good. I guess my biggest complaint in his Dinosaur Mode is it just, as I said, you get a lot of like broken areas, especially when you start moving him around. Like this seam will often split apart, and you definitely have up here at the neck area where it's not very seamless. back here as well. So, you know, I understand with the transformation, you know, trying to hide a robot in a dinosaur body like this can be difficult, but that's probably my least favorite thing about this figure is just in his dinosaur mode, you've got a lot of areas where it's just doesn't seem like it's that seamless. And even like down here, you know, this is again that kind of rubber material, so you get a lot of kind of broken lines there. So you know, it's not horrible, but definitely beast mode wise, this is probably my least favorite Beast Wars Transformer in the Kingdom line, just because of that reason. Now again, in his dinosaur mode with this head sculpt, I really do like this head sculpt. I think they've done a fantastic job with the head sculpt, and you continue to be able to open the mouth and close it. And we'll go over articulation. So with the head, you can move up good. You've got basically the front of the face here rotates up on the neck there. Now he can really only look straight ahead. He cannot look down, but you also get some left and the right movement there with the dinosaur head, which is nice. As I mentioned before, you can also open his mouth, open and close his mouth. So really the only lack of movement would be nice if he could get his head down some, but overall not too bad. And then he has these little arms which are on ball joints, so you can get them out about that much. You can rotate them all the way around, and you can do them in about that much as well. So you've got some movement there. He really doesn't have any midsection with the legs. He can do the legs back and forth about that much. You can't rotate them all the way around, but you do get some movement there. And then with the knee joint, he's got about that much movement there with the knee. And you can actually rotate the knees in this mode, so he does have knee rotation with these. And then with the feet, you have the hinges, so up and down movement, but you don't get any kind of ankle pivot. And then finally with the tail, you've got some movement, so you can move the tail up here at the top. So you've got movement there, and then you also have movement here at the end of the tail, so you can move that back and forth as well. You don't really get any up and down movement. You can a little bit up here at the top of the tail, but really not much. You get a fair, you know, for a dinosaur, you get a fair range of movement with him. It's just, again, as you're moving him around, you definitely start seeing more of those broken areas. You know, you can see like a big gaping hole there underneath his leg and stuff. So just be wary of that. In dinosaur mode at his highest point is about 7.5 inches tall. And here's a comparison of Cheetor, which is also a Beast Wars figure being released in the first wave, and Megatron is much bigger than Cheetor. And another comparison of Optimus Primal with Megatron in his dinosaur mode. Okay, so that's my review. So for the most part, I think this is a pretty solid figure. It's got a nice size to it, and I like a lot of the detailing with things like the dinosaur head and the mouth. You know, I think they did a really great job with that. And even like the scaling and everything with the skin, I think comes off looking really good. Paint applications are pretty solid. It's not a bad figure, but I do have some complaints with it, especially in his dinosaur mode with just all the breaks and the seams and lines and everything. It definitely throws off the look of the figure a little bit, especially when you start posing him around. It would also been nice if you could remove like the tail portion on the left arm in his robot mode, but I understand that that's probably not even in keeping with the cartoon and stuff. So that's just really more of a personal preference than anything. But if you are a fan of Beast Wars Megatron, this is probably one you are going to want to check out. Again, it's definitely got a nice size to it, a lot of detailing and everything, so I think you'll definitely want to check it out. Now this figure, along with the first wave, has started to see a limited release, but should start seeing a much wider release within the next 2 or 3 weeks. We'll have a full image gallery up at Toy News International. There'll be a link in the video description below. As always, leave a comment, let me know what you think. Also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that bell notification so you'll every time I upload a new video. Like the video if you're so inclined, and as always, stay safe out there, guys, and I'll catch you later.
Hey, thanks for watching today's video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification so you're alerted every time I upload a new video. And be sure to head over to the Toy News International and Marvelous News Message Boards communities. It's a great place to talk toys and win cool contests like $100 store credits to Big Bad Toy Store. And remember, action figures are great.